Yes. Hey, hello, beautiful people. So it's Michelle and me on video. And today we are coming together to record something for us all. And specifically to give out something which is having our interest a lot at the moment and already for a while, but it kept on being relevant. And at this moment we feel like, yeah, let's record something around that. And that is about the quality of discernment and what the quality of discernment entails and why do we need it? What happens if we don't do it? And what is the space that actually opens itself or has opened when we are actually in discernment zone? And another piece in that is like there is the raw and refined that we speak of a lot. And what does that have to do with one another? Yes.
Exactly.
So what is it sparking in you, and what comes up when I have a little pinch of an intro?
So what I love about the word discernment is that there's so much to it's like an invitation to unpack something and look at it from this different perspective, because when you discern, it requires nuance, it requires so much refinement, and at the same time, which is something that we were talking about as well, it requires an anchoring. And that's how we both realized that the raw and refined that you've been talking about for so many years, that's directly related to that, how the refinement, the discernment really requires the deeper anchoring. And what it sparks for me is like, I mean, there's so much going on in life right now, and it's so easy to be sucked into this one-sided, storyline, for example.
Opinionated.
Opinionated.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And it lives also subtle, like there is not just like I know it all, which also lives, but it's also in the subtle, like no, like, and it comes across. We also spoke about that. It comes across as confidence, and you might want to take it along in your own, like, oh, okay, but actually, it's not real confidence
because you can feel that.
Yeah, and there's a difference there, and you can feel the difference. So we're going to speak about that.
Yeah.
And also when the other side of confidence in that sense, like, armoring up, very subtly, very, how do you say that, hidden in a way, because confidence is beautiful, like filling yourself out, and confidence is of course a beautiful quality, but it comes from the place where we are actually anchored. So, I said something else too, like the other side of that was confidence is, I lost that
When it's
one.
not connected. When it's not connected.
Yeah. That was, I was gonna go there, but there was something else. Like, yeah, I'm gonna go back to that one.
I think that we might even come to that. Yeah. What I would like to, as a question that might be on people's mind right now. So what does the quality of discernment really entail? What does it require us to do? Could you speak about that?
Yeah, so the first thing that it brings up is like the yumminess of being able to be in the state, in the zone of discernment. Because it comes to life, we have the capacity to really go there and to not go into, opinionated, or I know it, or not even understanding actually that we are not in that beautiful zone of discernment, because life becomes so multi-layered. Life is multi-layered, but we don't catch it then anymore. And there's the energetic, there's the emotional, there is this angle, that angle, and it's not even I look from different angles, because you would hope that by now that most people that at least that would see this have an understanding of that. You know, it's our nature. But it's more refined than that. So the discernment, the zone of discernment, brings us, and I'll start on the other side. What it brings is the yumminess of being home in ourselves. So you feel that you're anchored. You feel that the space has a relaxation around it. There's a quality that we have brought ourselves to. And the quality is a natural quality, actually, that we like taking ourselves out of because of reactivity and not being in the in-between, as I call that, like the in-between. Yeah, and the example that I gave earlier was like, you know, splitting the ocean, and the ocean then being the world with all the conditioning and all the narratives that we are being drenched into, and the world outside of us, we try to push it aside, and then we can have more space. And the world is not just outside us, it's also inside us. And too often we don't take that in account. Like there's density in us, there's opinionatedness in us, there is that place where we are not feeling anchored.
Thinking that we're right.
And thinking that our righteousness or that we are right, or that we can see things so clearly, that it's actually coming from the deeper, plugged in, bold space, which is usually not. The beauty of discernment is that there's nothing to win other than the continuous, the pulsation of where truth, what's this taste, what is that, like it's a constant. It's not even I'm looking now towards a certain aspect in different ways, but it's a state.
Beautiful. I'm wondering if you agree with me on this, because I felt that, you know, the more I stepped away over time from my opinions and statements and everything that I thought I needed to stand for, I just felt like,
yeah, that was the
more
point.
silent.
That's it. I got it back now. I'm anchoring it.
Yay. But I felt like, you know, I don't even have a need to like prove myself or a need to voice myself or to, you know, it feels sometimes like there's a proving or a need to be heard. It's like an ego thing. And the more I learn to discern, like, hey, maybe I don't even have to go there. And I almost feel like there's a silence there. Where
I would like to call that the tuning. We become the tuning fork. Like we're tuning to where is truth opening up into layer after layer, unfolding. Like no second is the same. So in the next second, the clouds are different, and everybody has shifted a certain perspective, hopefully. And then to be in that constant in and out breath of how life is moving.
Yeah.
And what my thing was here was when you said the fear, the reason why we jump to these things like, okay, I need to speak, or I need to bring myself in, otherwise I don't have a voice, or I don't bring my voice in. And sometimes that is needed for a while, you know, like when we have withdrawn a lot, and then, you know, you try things out, and then you bring yourself in a lot to train that muscle a little bit, which is fine. But at the end, it's also not about that. And so to look into that doesn't become a mode. And either side of that has the fear that we become weak or are nothing. When we come to that place where we are in that beautiful zone of discernment, and that we are like a play ball for life. Yeah, we think of it as we are not an anchored being, that it's not a sturdy place to be in. Mm-hmm. So sometimes people said to me too, so then tell me, Pooja, what, like, how do you see it? Tell me what you want. Be concrete. Like, I'm like, hey, I'm not there. In sometimes I am, you know, like, okay, it's clear. Go left or whatever it is. But it is also like an overactivated nervous system that wants to react the whole time to things, and we miss out on really catching the nuances. And the nuances have so much intelligence in them. And what we have seen now lately as well with the whole Dalai Lama thing, you know, it's almost like, ooh, should I mention the words?
Mm-hmm.
But it really is touching me. Like, so fast, people know what is going on. And then even when I try to nuance it a little bit, it's like, yeah, exactly. It's exactly that. And I'm like, no, not that, you know, keep on looking at all the layers, because the beauty of discernment and what we can gain with this is also with an example as the Dalai Lama saga, is that it shows us that we cannot just say it's this or that. We still try, our ego still tries. Or that we are so flexible, like, yeah, yesterday I thought this, but now I see it's that. Then still, it's same.
Yeah.
But it is an excuse so that we can really see, and this is one of the main parts of this. Or how can we hold huge complexity in our systems?
Exactly.
How can we train ourselves to be with a lot that is going on? Because there is never just one thing, you know. I can be happy, sad, touched, open, tired, hungry, full, like everything is here. And this is just a little example, and then the rest. So how can we be that vessel that can hold complexity?
Exactly. And that's where the sturdiness comes in, with sturdy being solid, being anchored and not rigid.
Yeah. And that's a beautiful thing to discern as well. What is solid and becomes rigid, and what is solid and is actually very flexible.
Precisely.
Right now I'm noticing I want to slow down just one little moment, because otherwise I lose being in the good zone. Yeah, this is what the world tends to do, and this is my inner world responding to that. And I can speak about that, but maybe that's not for now. Taking it one tad slower. So an example comes up, which is, it's been used many times, but maybe it's a clear one. If you are a tree and you're very strong and your roots are very deep, but it's not flexible, one big storm and the tree will collapse anyway. So it is being deeply rooted and having the capacity to let the wind flow through us, to let us be rained down, and we stay rooted, we stay home. And it's and it's for our construct very enticing, that's the word, to not do it. Because if I would lose myself, if I would be reactive, then maybe I would be understood. Maybe then this is actually finally able to happen. Maybe I'm not losing this connection, or maybe whatever. And that plays out the whole time. So, and the funny thing is, when you come to that zone where you're just staying home, even if you take, so if you see and hear this, so how can you do this and where to start? Take at least, also with just 1 second, you can change something in yourself. If you give moments 1 second longer before you open your mouth, or you turn into a direction and you take that 1 second to just connect here. And not to find something there, because it's not, this is also the thing, like, oh, people and humans are afraid to really descend fully in our base of our body, huh? Like the pelvis, like being plugged in is deeply rooted in the base of our body. And that whole first and second and third, but let's say that whole first chakra area is charged with us being afraid to really, and this is the whole journey. Like, how can we become fully embodied in our human being, in the human flesh?
Yeah.
And that's a whole journey, because there's a lot to, to meet before we. So it
There's
is differently there. Yeah, I'm back. It was an important piece. It goes differently down there than up here. So the mind is fast, and it brings us. So the mind is a beautiful thing as long as it can follow our deeper wisdom. But if it becomes the chief executive, then it's not such a great idea, because it just spins same old, different jackets, same thing. So we need to come deeper home in ourselves so that we can change how we let life move us, and also change how we make opinions, change how we come to right judgment of things. From deeper plugged inness, it goes differently. So when you take that second to land a moment longer, a moment deeper, don't think it's like an instant answer sometimes that's coming out, or the same way as it would come from your head. And because it's different, and we need different ears and different understanding of how that works, it's easier to, like, okay, then the mind comes in and I listen to that.
It's very different quality that comes out. Yeah. Very different.
And you can see that in people. So that's so one on the angle on this is, how do you know what discernment is? And of course that's the inner work, like you mentioned the word ego. Like, how can the ego not be so on board the whole time and running the show? That is our inner work, because the ego is beautiful. It's a beautiful construct. I always want to say that as a disclaimer. I'm not against ego at all. We need, it's beautiful, it's intelligent, like it made us survive on so many levels. Like, fuck, we're here because it's not too.
Part of a human life.
Yeah. And we can dismantle all the construct mindsets, and through that we can look deeper into life. We get to meet life deeper. We can allow life deeper. We are being fucking blown open or melted deeper. And I love so much. Go ahead.
Well, the thing is, we're using the word deep a lot in the work that we do, and in our emails, and also now in this talk. And one of the reasons why one of the reasons why we also talked about recording this is because when you can anchor deeper in yourself, there's so much more that you can hold, so much more complexity, and then there's so much more discernment possible. However, I mean, it's like we talked about this analogy, how when things are just surface level, there's only a little bit of water. If you would dig a little bit of a hole in the ground, and it's just surface level, there's a little bit of water you can put in. But if you dig deeper into the soil, it can hold more water, or whatever you put in it. And it's a bit the same, like the work that we do with Beyond is about going deeper and digging deeper within yourself, so that you increase that capacity in yourself.
Exactly. Deeper we anchor ourselves,
yes,
the wider the umbrella can open. The wider range of that whole thing opens for us, and also for ourselves. Like, if you just look at it like, what's my game? It's like fucking amazing to be in that zone, because you're not being like played the whole time. It's more relaxed. And you can still be fast, but then it comes from a more responsive thing, and there is not so much attached to it. It's free.
Exactly. Yeah, because I was just about to ask you, so many people are really afraid to go really deep, but what does it really bring? But you just answered that.
One of the answers then.
One of the answers, yeah.
So let's go back one moment, because we tapped on something beautiful. Yeah, so it is yummy to be in that zone and to be able to be in discernment. Like your ears work differently. You know, if you're in the state of discernment, not so much doing the thing discernment, like it's like a quality, then things come in a different way, whether it's in your ears, like through all senses. And what I love so much, that the sentence that comes along with that for me, and it always brings me back to that old story of the Chinese farmer with his son that was being sent to war, and that the village said, oh, that's a shit. Like first they I think their only horse was lost, and then the village said, oh my God, that's so sad. And then the farmer said, well, let's see, maybe yes, maybe not. And to everything that happens, there is this like maybe yes, maybe not. And not to conclude so fast so much to things is what that tells me a lot. Yeah. It's more like, oh, okay, so that is happening. Okay, interesting. Is that a bad thing? Well, potentially not, because everything is always working out well. So we just sometimes have to wait a little longer, or what is happening here? Or maybe we come to that point where we feel like, okay, I'm really holding point here for that. So I'm not available for any longer this or that. But then it doesn't come from a rigidness. I'm not available for this anymore. It's more like, it's clear. I'm staying here. That's it.
Yeah.
And or yeah. And in the there's a yumminess to it, because you get to track yourself the whole time while being super engaged with everything that is coming in. And of course, sometimes we need to focus, and it's not like we can be all the time, everywhere, anytime, but you can consciously choose to bring yourself to that state over and over again. And I love it a lot. Like, okay, so and sometimes you get crazy, maybe a little bit, like we just made a decision, like, yeah, that's good. And then you're like, yeah. Because it continuously moves. Yeah. And the other thing is that we need it. We need it in this time. We need it in ourselves, because something else is being called upon in us. It's no longer. I listen to a lot of beautiful, intellectual, embodied people at the moment again, and they speak a lot about the meta crisis. We have a meta crisis going on. Like there's, you don't see it directly when you go to the supermarket to get your cheese or whatever. But when you zoom out a little bit, energetically, well, there's a lot moving, and we know that. And it calls on something else than what has been before. So, and what we are still doing is doing a little bit of the same old, and there where it doesn't work anymore, what is happening now? Polarization comes in more. So we jump earlier to conclusions, instead of being able to plug in. So the only thing that we can do in this moment is to come home in a deeper integrated state, bring everything on board so that we can become like the best tuning fork that we can be for ourselves, for our soul, for the world, for this new shifting reality that we are in the middle of. And we're part of that. And the frequency that we bring with us is a choice that we can make by understanding how we can be in that zone of discernment, being plugged in and anchored, or that we still see, like also this whole Dalai Lama thing. Please, let's take it as an example of, okay, so this thing is now playing out here. What we learn from this is, and then we can, I mentioned the word tapestry when I wrote something about it. There's a tapestry of ingredients that are on board here. Like there's so much to look into. Let's do that. And then let us all in ourselves and amongst each other, like, okay, so we got to see that part there. Let me take that in and learn this a little bit and learn that a little bit. let's not just project it out or make it black or white or left or right or whatever the thing is, or externalize it again to some kind of elite alone. Maybe it's all happening, but the only thing we can do to make that frequency shift and being part of that is plugging in deeper and becoming a vaster, deeper tuning fork. Yes. So discernment is of our levensbelang. How do you call that?
Oh, it's vital to our life sustainability.
Yes, no, it's true. It's actually, we are on the verge on a certain level, and maybe not, you never know, because I don't like to doom think or whatever. However, society, human society, civilization is on the verge of collapsing. So there's only one thing to do, and that is, how can we line up as best as we can so we don't have to push ourselves? It is coming deeper home.
Yes,
you know, it's the easiest thing. It's the, you know, like there's nothing to do, it's to undo, to let ourselves be undone again.
Yeah. And this is what the true meaning of embodiment is. I mean, with all the different, you know, connotations and so-called meanings that people have with embodiment, I sometimes see pictures of people showing how embodied they are simply through a picture where they're in sexy lingerie, for example, because it could be that they're very embodied, but the picture doesn't necessarily see that. Just the fact that you're confident with your, it's a very different thing.
And this is also so nice, like with this discernment range, you get to see it all. It's a lot, but and it's funny because you don't have to make an opinion of it, and there's no end to it. Like it's unending, ongoing. So when you say like, okay, so I'm clear, it is that. That is that for that moment, and we can keep it for a while, you know, like it's good enough to go with for a while, but exactly.
And yeah.
And also on this what is the difference between embodiment and posture? You know, like there's a posture around something, and there is just embodiment, and you can, in the body, to being in the body is needed for being in that anchoring. Yeah, so the embodiment is for sure needed.
Oh, absolutely.
But it also means that in the body we got to feel how we become a vessel. So how empty can we be in the body so we can actually feel what is inside. And sometimes we need to go into the body to really feel what is all alive there. Where is the pain? Where's the ache? Where's the story? Where's the memory? Where is the need? Where is, you know, like everything on this physical level that is so potent too, and discouraging. That was not the words I was looking for, but that just popped up. Like, yeah, it's actually sometimes discouraging. You're like, oh my God, you know. But the deep work in there is to connect deeply to it so that we create more space in it again. This is basically the essence of the whole temple work. You know, you bring yourself to the temple, also in our own temple, you bring yourself to the temple. So to empty yourself, to meet it all, to empty, so we can be filled by the divine, a larger truth, depth.
And hold more that way. We're constantly, I feel that in the temple, that's what we're doing. We're deepening ourselves so that, you know, we can increase our capacity for life.
And this is, maybe you can share a few words around that, like the difference, what you see when we have the first days in the temple, and then later on that holding capacity. And also, yeah, I just shared it yesterday with someone, how touched I was also in our last in the first temple deepening, our last temple happening, where we had someone that was, you know, like in that system there was a lot of holding on to a certain posturing and a certain way, and there was a righteousness around that, and you know, and you would almost believe it. You know, it was so like, yeah, fortunately I don't believe so easily so much from things that come to us. Because I just keep on going like, yeah, there's that sign, there's that, and there's that, and then da, 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 da. And for certain systems, that is also scary because it's, you can't grasp it. So I'm ungraspable maybe, but that is because I'm not opinionated. I'm just as anchored as I can be so that things can just play out. And then, finally we get there. And with this person, it was so beautiful to see, like there was this, and we were kind of waiting, like, is this going to flip? You know, is that system able to do this right here, right now? And then when it happened, it was so beautiful because it really opened this whole range. Like, it really brings me to tears. And we're so holding on to things, and then we let go, and that you feel like this landing is a soft landing, because we are afraid if we let this go, we're just going to be flat on our face. You know, it's going to hurt us, kill us, whatever. And it's never like that. So her soft, beautiful landing was it. And also what I really want to honor in that is that her capacity, and that's, it's personal, not personal. Like in that system, there was a capacity there, so that could hold this whole shift. And also like, oh, I went from this side to that side.
Yeah, and she was able to be with that.
Exactly. And that, like, you know, things like that, you know, sometimes no matter how tiring this work is, and, you know, the whole big productions of everything around it, it's like, fuck yes. It is so beautiful. Because then you can just feel like this zone, now that zone is opened in her, and it becomes such an amazing reflection also to everyone, you know?
Yeah.
You could, because when you're so in it and everything just, the frequency rises, and you know, the capacity rises, and it usually goes a little bit collectively. Yeah. There's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And then when something this obvious is happening, you all get to feel and see like the massiveness of the beauty in that. Yeah. And there were more examples of that actually, but this one like that specifically. Yeah.
Exactly. And which is why everybody
loves that, you know, like one thing. Yes, but and I find it so interesting. Like this world is made so that we are in the box, you know, like you go to work, you come home, you cook dinner. It's a little bit still the old 50s that are still, in a way, somehow underneath it all. Even though there's many more lifestyles and there's a lot of newness and evolution. But what we all love, everyone besides people that might be so damaged that they cannot take that in anymore, and even for that, I think there's still hope. Everybody runs to the rainbow when they see one. Everybody wants to see the sun. Everybody opens through the sunset, like, wow, you know, like that bigger thing than what we think. Like everybody loves that. And I'm mentioning that because we have that sunset and the rainbow in us when in these talent shows. Why are we looking at that? Because sometimes there's these gems where you feel like this is pure soul. Also in our own beautiful temple, like the musicians that we have, you know, when we are in such a tapped in space, and it comes like the only thing you can do is just, you know, allow the vessel to tear its tears, because it's just directly from source, you know, there's nothing in between. Yes. And then they blast open, or I remember one of those talent things when there was this girl of 12 years, very shy and, you know, like modest and and then her voice just blasts into that space. Everybody's blown open by it, because it has, for everyone, it brings us directly into that zone where we are out of the way. Like, oh yeah, that's it. This is soul talk. This is soul experience. And everybody applauds that, from conservative to liberated to, I don't know how to call it all, like, you know, like everybody just like, oh, that's beautiful. And then, you know, like the expansion The
Yeah.
true expansion, everybody loves.
Exactly.
And then until we go back to normal. And then we're this, that, and da. It's so interesting to me.
Yeah.
And then we think we are discerning, you know, on the conservative or not conservative levels. It's this or it's that. It's that. And then we go try
And that's not discerning anymore. That's
no,
creating
exactly.
separation.
Yeah, exactly. Separation is a beautiful word here. And I want to say, as a disclaimer for it all, I have a lot of compassion for all layers and levels of everywhere we are, because you and I go through it all at our own ways. And behind every motion, so also when something is being boxed and
Yeah.
named different, behind that there is still love for a truth, even though it's still distortion, even though it's still not home fully yet. That there is an intention always at the end of the day. Love is the big carrier of it all, and the big color in of it all, even though we cannot hear it to its depth.
Yeah.
Okay, now you can close this off because I also see time.
Yeah.
And maybe we'd like to, yeah, let's take a little breath.
Yeah. Lots to take in and to, yeah, hold, which is, you know, the beauty of it, to let all the teachings and everything that you've just learned be with you. Yeah, allow it, not trying to grasp it now, but to just, yeah, let it be. Thank you for this talk.
Yeah, it's fun. It's good.